Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. We're actually going to do some crypto starter fusions on the live stream in a minute here tonight. But we're actually going to do how much XRP do you need to become an XRP millionaire, and how much do you actually need to spend right now to acquire that much XRP. We're going to base this on 26.9 cent XRP right now because that's how much XRP is actually worth right now. And how much would you have to spend based on if you had to buy XRP right now? Obviously, if you buy 2 weeks later, if Bitcoin falls to 8,500 and it's at 20 cents, you wouldn't have to spend as much. But I can't really, I can't really just pretend that it's at 20 cents when it's at 26.9 right now. So we're going to base this on 26.9 right now. I think especially throughout the course of this year, most people have actually gotten a lot more realistic about where their XRP is going and how much they'll actually need. I've heard a lot more like you're not going to get rich off your 1,000 XRP, but you might get a modest amount of money. I think that's really the right mindset to go into investing with, to invest in any asset with, not just XRP. So we're actually going to project 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years out. The 10-year one, I'm actually going to use Susan Athey's price projection of her successful price projection. So in 2 years, I suspect that there'll be a peak around maybe $6 or $7, but it could be no more than $3.50 on the next spike. I base that off of the price right now, which is 26.9 cents. If you really think about it, before the December spike in 2017, we were actually around 26, 25 cents. So if that, and Bitcoin was nowhere near as high, wasn't as high as it is now. So even if it did spike, if Bitcoin spiked right now, it'd have to actually spike a lot higher for XRP to get the same ratio. So I'm going to say like the next spike is going to be around 350. So that's in a 2-year time frame. Now it might happen any time within those 2 years. I don't know when it's going to happen. My guess is probably Q1 of next year, but it could be Q4 of next year too. So in a 2-year time frame, I'm going to say that if you sell off at the max, you can get maybe around 350. Now it might be more than 350, it might be less than 350. Based on the ratios right now of how much XRP increases when Bitcoin increases, it doesn't really look that good. But I'm going to say it's going to be fairly similar to last time. But because Bitcoin's starting at a higher base value than last time, the Bitcoin's going to have to rise to a higher price for XRP to get to 350. But I do believe Bitcoin will rise to a higher price this time, and XRP will get to around 350. So based on that, you need 285,715 XRP to get $1 million. This is obviously before tax, because different countries, different states have different taxes. I'm not going to calculate the taxes for you. And plus, don't worry about imaginary taxes that you will pay on your imaginary $1 million until you actually get that $1 million. All right. So we're not going to worry about taxes. So without taxes, you need 285,715 XRP to get $1 million at $3.50. And to do that right now, you need to spend $76,857.40 to actually get $1 million within 2 years if you are successful at selling off at the peak. That means if you have $80,000 worth of XRP right now and you want to be a millionaire, once it gets to 350, you need to sell out. Otherwise, you risk it dropping and you not actually getting $1 million. However, within a 2-year period, I don't think 350 will be actually the settled price. I actually think within a 2-year period, the settled price will actually be 50 cents. And actually, that's based on one of Brad Garlinghouse's statements that says he hopes that XRapid will have $1 billion worth of transactional volume by 2020. Now, he didn't actually specify if that was day, week, year, whatever. But from what most people have interpreted as, they actually saw that as $1 billion total volume in 2020. Since he didn't specify, he just said $1 billion worth of volume going through XRapid in 2020. We remember that XCurrent has been out for several years, and it wasn't too long ago that they actually just reached 1 billion. I think it was like last year. They reached 1 billion total volume. People are kind of projecting that onto XRapid right now, and most people that I've seen online on Twitter, even from the XRP army, they're saying $1 billion total volume by the end of 2020. Now, if you really watch the numbers, that's about $2 or $3 million of XRP versus through XRapid per day, and that's really not going to affect the price at all. So based on utility value, based on in terms of utilization, that's even by the end of 2020 next year, which is almost a year and a half away, most of the 2 years, the utilization of XRP really shouldn't affect the price all that much. Even if it is $1 billion a day, that's really not enough to really push up the price that much. $1 billion a day, if we have 50 cent XRP, that only takes 2 billion XRP to transfer. You probably have to hold an equal amount in liquidity. So basically, you need a roughly maybe 4 billion out of the 40 billion circulating supply to actually both hold enough liquidity at the exchanges and have enough to process each day. And now that's assuming that that's actually not taking into account the small amount of time transfer that XRP has, so you can use the same XRP several times a day. That actually would make it even less likely to affect price. But even if it is $1 billion a day, it wouldn't really affect prices that much. And 50 cent XRP is easily enough to basically use only 10 or 20% of the available circulating supply, not the total supply, the available circulating supply, to actually handle the transactions. And the rest of the circulating supply can just be used to speculate, hold, whatever people want to do, X Spring, whatever. So based on the fact that I actually do think it's $1 billion total and not $1 billion per day, because he didn't specify per day, I don't think the utilization should actually affect the price at all. So we could actually be back at like 30 cents, but I'm going to guess that more of the information is going to come out. R3 is going to have some developments. MoneyGram is going to have some developments, and people will be more excited about this investment. Plus, the market will be hopefully better overall by December of 2020. That we're going to have 50 cent stable XRP. 50 cent stable makes a very easy calculation. You need 2 million XRP to be a millionaire, which means you need to invest $538,000 right now to have $1 million by the end of 2020 or within 2 years. But end of 2020 is only a couple of months away from 2 years. So I would say you need to slightly more than $500,000 right now to invest slightly more than $500,000 right now to get to $1 million within a 2 year period, assuming that you don't sell at the top and you just hold on all the way through this and you wait for the market to play itself out. Like I said, if you sell at the top, you probably only need about $70,000-$80,000 right now to make $1 million. So 2 years stable, about $538,000. Now, for 5 years, that's a lot more time to develop the system, and we're going to assume that there's actually a really good amount of money processing through XRapid each day. We don't know how much each day because no one has really said anything. I do believe the remittance market's going to grow, and maybe XRapid is going to take over a decent part of that market. So in 5 years, I believe maybe you can have a set price of $7, and that's also with some of the projects for X Spring, maybe Coil taking a little bit of a hold, because competing against YouTube and stuff, that's a hard market. That's actually a really hard task. Many projects have tried, and many projects have failed. So I would say I don't think Coil is obviously going to take over YouTube or anything for streaming media content, but it might take a part of the market share. So based on that, I would say $7 XRP 5 years, and that's a settled price. That's not a spike price. That's a settled price for 5 years. And if you really think about it, Ripple's already existed for 7 years, so they're really no longer in the startup stage anymore. But in another 5 years, you're talking about a 12-year-old company, and that should be clear out of the startup stages for any kind of company. So if Ripple isn't in above $2 or $3 in 5 more years stable, then I don't think it's really going to be all that successful. So we're guessing about $7. I'm guessing about $7 stable in 5 years from now. And at $7, you need 142,857.14 XRP to have $1 million, and you need to spend about $38,428 right now to become a millionaire in 5 years, without taxes, obviously. So that's my projection for 5 years. Now for 10 years, I'm going to take Susan Athey's value because, yes, David Schwartz did say it could possibly reach 120. Brad Garlinghouse has never really mentioned a price, but Athey's projection was the only mathematical formula I saw. I know a lot of people want to take Athey's formula and plug really extremely high numbers into it, but you can't just take her formula and completely disregard the numbers that she actually put into it. Her numbers that she actually put into it were much, much lower. And a lot of people are saying, oh, she's just being safe or conservative, or she just doesn't want to get in trouble for projecting sky high numbers. No, I don't really think that's the case. She's a Stanford professor, and her the academic reputation actually kind of rests on this. She doesn't want to be way off either way. She wants to be as accurate as possible. So I actually think that the $32 that she actually projected for a high case for XRP is actually fairly accurate, or her best guess. Schwartz just said 120 off the top of his head. He never really gave that much reasoning for that or a detailed calculation for that. So I'm actually going to go with Susan Athey's projection because she actually wrote a giant paper about why she thinks that number is going to be, what percentage each market that she thinks it's going to take. And I think it's actually fairly reasonable because she doesn't think the FX, she doesn't think XRP is going to really penetrate into the actual FX exchange corridors because a lot of those have their own systems. And like CLS just basically signed with IBM on a new system last November, so they're not going to change anytime soon. And a lot of the more liquid corridors where like the vast majority of the transactions come through, they actually don't really need a bridge because they're liquid enough already. CLS is working with Swift GPI as well, so there's a lot of complications in there. Now, she did actually project a small percent of FX going over, and that's what I'm going with as well because there are the more illiquid corridors, but they consist like of 5% at the most of the world's FX transactions on like actual FX speculation. So XRP might take over a large part of that, but for like the major corridors, I don't really think they'll really take over like the FX washing or anything. But she did actually project that XRP would take over most of the remittance market and a decent chunk of the corporate payments market. A lot of the corporate payments market will eventually work off private ledgers anyways because they're going to be private transfers. But she did say it would take over about 40% of the corporate payments and about 80% of remittances. And I think those are fair numbers to actually judge on based in 2030. So her projection was at the high end, at the very high end, her projection was $32, and that's 10 years. 2030, it's actually 11 years, but we'll just say 10 just for easier calculation. So at $32, you need 31,250 XRP to be a millionaire, and you would need to spend $8,406.25 right now to actually achieve $1 million. And I think that's a really good return on investment. It's slightly over 100x. So if you invest in XRP right now and wait for 10 years, you will get slightly more than 100 times your return. Now, will XRP be the highest ROI coin out of all these cryptocurrencies? No, I don't actually think so, because you're not really getting an XRP on the ground floor anymore. You're like getting in on the first floor at this point. The ground floor would have been like 4 years ago. And if you really wanted to compare it to like Amazon, this is more of like Amazon at the ICO stage. This is not like Amazon at the stage where Jeff Bezos is in his mom's basement programming Amazon. That was like 4 or 5 years ago for XRP. So you can't really compare to that because XRP is a fairly well-known cryptocurrency now in the crypto world. Everyone who is actually involved in cryptocurrency actually knows about XRP now. Just like when Amazon ICO'd, everyone who was in retail knew actually about Amazon at that point. And from Amazon's ICO to where they are now, they actually increased probably slightly less than 100. And at $32, XRP would actually increase by more than 100x. So you're looking at like 100x returns based on a company that's not really that new. They've been around for 7 years. So has the crypto asset. It's been around for about 7 years. And it's already gone through one big pump and drop, obviously. But it's gone from like half a cent to about 26 cents right now. So you've already missed like the bottom layer. You're on kind of like the first floor. You're no longer on like in the basement. You're in the first floor. So you can't expect ROIs like basement level ROIs. If you want basement level ROIs, you got to like take one of those like really small coins right now that no one knows about and basically bet on that it's going to be super successful. But XRP is no longer that anymore. It's not like basement level. You're not getting in on the ground floor. You're getting in one floor up. So you can't expect the same ROI as the ground floor. Like if you met Jeff Bezos in his mom's basement programming Amazon and you offered him $1,000 for X shares of Amazon, you would make a lot more than if you got in at the Amazon ICO. Getting in at the basement level, like, offering Jeff Bezos X amount of money while he's in his mom's basement is kind of like buying XRP at half a cent. Buying at Amazon ICO is kind of like buying XRP at 26 cents right now. So they're two entirely different things. And even though you're buying on the first floor, kind of like the ICO at the IPO stage of Amazon, you're still looking at about over 100x, which I think is a fair projection 10 years out. Changing the financial industry takes time, and I think 10 years from now, XRP will actually be kind of mature. I like the explanations that Susan Athey actually gave in her paper, and that's why I actually used her $32 projection. So here are the specifics. If you're looking for like stable where you don't have to guess and sell at the peak, I would say in 2 years, within 2 years, you need about $538,000 to get to $1 million for XRP. Within 5 years, you might only need $38,428 because I think the growth between 2 and 5 years is going to be really big. And in 10 years, you only need $8,406 to make $1 million. So no, if you have your 1,000 XRP, you're not going to get rich. You're not going to be a millionaire, but you will end up. Your 1,000 XRP might end up being $32,000, which is a good chunk of cash, maybe like half a year's salary, and that might be enough to buy you a new car. Not a Lambo, but maybe like a Toyota Avalon or something, which is pretty nice. Or you can just buy like a Prius and have like $6,000 or $7,000 left over. So let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you and have a nice day. And remember, we're going to fuse different in the live stream. We're actually going to fuse different crypto people. Thank you and have a nice day.